Just a quick disclaimer that all comments made in this video are just my own opinion on the situation. Please don't send hate to anyone involved in this video. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about James Charles and that 14-year-old little kid who tried to accuse him of being a predator again. Just in case you missed my video on this last week, let's do a little recap. So there's this 14-year-old kid slash TikToker named Ethan Andrew who's come out with a YouTube video claiming that James Charles has made advances towards him knowing he was only 14. He said he DM'd James first just for fun, not thinking much of it. James responds saying, "Why do you keep texting me?" Ethan responds with a picture of himself. James asks his age. Ethan again responds with a picture. Ethan says that he told James his age in the picture and James just replied saying, "That's very young," and asked for his Snapchat. But then James started pushing boundaries on Snapchat and making him feel really uncomfortable with the things he was sending. James hasn't publicly spoken out about this just yet, but he has been speaking to a couple of tea and drama channels behind the scenes. James had also sent screenshots of messages to Destin Daily.
It was a picture of this kid in the mirror, and then it was James saying the eye roll emoji, and he said LOL back again, and this guy said, "Nah, just got something to say." James said, "Question mark, someone sent me that podcast of you and Logan, kind of felt like shade was thrown." And James replied to him and said, "At you?" And this guy replies and says, "Yeah." James replied to him and said, "I promise that I haven't thought about you since you blocked me on Snapchat for the third time, LOL." This guy says, "Just kind of strange how everything you said on that podcast was kind of everything I told you, family problems, etc."
I don't know why he was so insistent on making what James said on Logan Paul's podcast about him. Like, he's moved on, he's forgotten about you, and you should move on too.
James replied and said, "No, it was actually about a Romanian boy that I was talking to from LA for a few weeks. As I said, I haven't thought about you." The kid sends another picture and it's just him like, and James went on to say, "You can believe what you want, it wasn't about you, but clearly the shoe fits, enjoy your night then." This guy then replies to James and says, "Stop lying, we was friends." James said, "Dead emoji, how are you gonna come into my DMs accusing me of speaking about you on a podcast where I talked about a guy I was talking to that didn't work out, and then 5 minutes later say we didn't talk?" This guy says, "We didn't talk, you exaggerated, hella." James replied and said, "You said you were bisexual and were into me and that I was beautiful, LMAO. I'm sorry that you're insecure and embarrassed about your sexuality." This guy replies and says, "Hell nah."
For the record, I don't actually think this guy is bi and just insecure about his sexuality. I think he was just trying to shoot his shot for the clout.
And James says, "Have a nice night." And this kid then says something that really sent up a red flag for me. He said, "Scandal time, question mark."
And then the latest evidence against Ethan has come out when a TikToker who's known Ethan for 2 years spoke out against him.
So these two guys, Ethan and Zay, are trying to claim that James Charles baited them. What I think is funny about it is that a month ago, they texted me since I've known them for 2 or 3 years now. They live a good 20-30 minutes away from me. James commented on one of my videos and they saw it, so they FaceTimed me. Keep in mind, the only time they've ever reached out to me is whenever I've hit a success. But they saw that James commented on one of my videos. So Ethan and Zay snap call me. I answered the call and they were like, "Hey, we saw that James commented on your video, like that's super cool." And I was just freaking out and I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes he did." And then Ethan was like,
"Well, I actually talked to James."
And Zay was like,
"Yeah, he talks to James."
And I was like, "Oh, like that's so cool, whatever." And then he proceeded to tell me that he DM'd him and that James actually responded and he thought that was crazy. He's telling me how it was so cool that James had talked to him and that they Snapchatted each other. He was just basically bragging about how James talks to him and how he flirts with James and all this stuff. He told me, he's like, "I'm not gay, but like, it's James Charles, so I'm gonna flirt with him."
This is exactly what I figured he would have thought.
Keep in mind, Ethan has told me before that he's 17 about to turn 18.
When he's going around telling other people that he's 17 to 18 years old, what makes people think that he would tell James the truth and say that he's 14, especially when he's trying to, quote, shoot his shot with him? Also, let's not forget that his famous birthdays account used to say that he's 15 years old. It's now since been changed to 14 years. From what I've been hearing, famous birthdays does contact you to confirm your age, so there's just so many sketchy things going on around his age that I just don't know if I trust him anymore.
So when I hear that he told James that he was 14, and then I saw that James posted screenshots saying he's 18, I believed it, because he lied to me about his age. And he's saying, well, he could have looked me up. I could have looked him up too, but I didn't, because that's weird. Who just goes and looks people up? I'm sorry, I don't do that.
Now, this is the part where I kind of disagree with the girl. I think that if you're in James Charles's position and you've already had so many false accusations made against you, so you're kind of walking on thin ice with your reputation, you kind of do need to take the extra step and at the very least Google maybe who you're going to be sending nudes to, or even possibly have your team do a background check on the person. Like, it's James Charles, obviously he has the means to do stuff like that, and so all of this could have been preventable, right? James had also sent this screenshot from his private messages to Ethan, which doesn't actually really show much, but at the very least it does show that Ethan didn't have any of his other socials attached to his Instagram, so James really had no way of knowing that he was a public figure or that he could Google him, so that's that.
Basically, Ethan claims that James baited him, James was sending him booty pics, and that he felt so uncomfortable. He felt like his family's life was in danger because he was being hit on after he DM'd someone, saying that he was trying to shoot his shot, knowing their sexuality, lying about their age. But in his video, he says everything opposite of what actually happened, and I know because he told me. So I saw on Snapchat Drama Alert the video clips from Ethan's video he made telling the story about James Charles and what happened. I'm not even lying when I say I looked at that video like this, because a month ago they had told me exactly what happened and it was nothing that they were saying in the video. They were conscious about the whole situation. So whenever I saw that Snapchat, I sent it to him. I screenshotted it and I sent it to him. He opened my screenshot that I sent him, left it on red, and I replied again. I was not about to let someone get canceled for something that didn't even happen just because they want a little bit of clout. And I sent him a bunch of question marks, didn't answer. So then the next day I Snapchatted him, this is yesterday, and I said, why are you lying about this to get clout? I'm blocked. Then I go in my DMs and like, maybe I can find something about it in Zay's DMs on Instagram because he always DMs me. I'm blocked.
Yeah, I mean, that's just very self-explanatory. Why would you block someone if they were confronting you about something that you actually didn't do? If you actually had anything to say in your own defense? You know what I mean? Ethan clearly didn't have anything to say back to her, and he knew his ass was lying. So I'm just gonna be honest with you guys here, and I said this in my last video as well. Ethan has not showed sufficient evidence of really anything. All he did was show one side of a conversation, so I'm not even sure what he wants us to take away from that. Then again, there are a lot of people saying that this does not let James Charles off the hook because at the end of the day, he did still send nudes to a minor. Whether or not he was catfished, it doesn't matter. Now, I don't know shit about the law, so I can't really comment on this, but let me know down below if you know how that could go down in court if Ethan were to take legal action against James. And while it's true that Ethan is somewhat of a public figure and James could have easily Googled him and found his age on famous birthdays, we don't actually know when his famous birthdays account got created. Honestly, like, this dude is just a kid, right? And I truly don't think he understands just how serious these allegations are. I can't even say he had malicious intent because he's literally 14 years old and a dumbass, so I just hope he can grow up and learn from his mistakes. And as for James, I hope his reputation can recover from this as well. There are rumors of him taking legal action behind the scenes, but I'm honestly not sure if that would have major repercussions for Ethan because he's still a minor. I don't know, this is exactly why parents need to monitor what their kids are doing on the internet. That was it for today's video. I really want to know what your opinion is on all of this, so make sure to comment that down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos 3 times a week. Alright you guys, bye!